Hello, people of YouTube. So, Tim Sale is an artist, specifically the comic book artist in charge of Batman's Long Halloween and Dark Victory. And when I read Long Halloween, which is like the book that comes before Dark Victory, I was very much visually unimpressed. I didn't like it. I was kind of like, okay, the story is way better than the art. I'm going to finish it because the story is good and I want to know how it ends. But I'm not a fan of this artist. And then after the story was over, I wanted to read the next one, which is The Dark Victory. And I went into it because it had the same artist, Tim Sale. And I went into Dark Victory with low expectations because I was very much so unimpressed with Long Halloween that once I got to Dark Victory, I was like, wow. Wow. Like, there was such a huge difference. And I just want to talk about that. I think it's great that he was able to pull off such a great amount of like improvement in such a short amount of time. I will give Tim Sale a couple of excuses on maybe why Long Halloween wasn't as good as Dark Victory. It was earlier in his career. I don't know the whole timeline of his career. That information was kind of hard to find, so I don't know anything about that. So he was obviously 3 years younger when making Long Halloween, so he had that amount of time for improvement. But then also when it comes to comic books, typically there's a colorist listed, like a person in charge of coloring in everything, like they're in charge of the color palette and all that kind of stuff. But Long Halloween and Dark Victory didn't have that. So I think he was like one man doing two jobs. He was both the artist as like doing the line work and all that, and then also having to color it when normally that's separated into two different jobs. So I will let him have that excuse. And with that excuse, I will note some of his progression because in Long Halloween, I found the colors to be very muddy and dull and just like not very comic book-esque. It was just kind of flat. While in Dark Victory, I feel like the colors were better selected. They were bold and vibrant. They worked really nice together. Like they had more cohesive color palettes and it gave it more of a comic book feel versus Long Halloween where it wasn't giving comic book. I feel like his art style hadn't quite adapted to working on comic books yet. And then also he does a really good job with different monochrome schemes, using different tones and shades of the same color to just build a nice looking image that was pleasing to my eye. And another potential reason I could see for his growth is adjusting to digitally made art, because both Long Halloween and Dark Victory do look digitally made. I'm not entirely sure about that, but they look like they were digitally made. And then there's one scene in Dark Victory that is watercolor, and his artistry there was absolutely beautiful. Like that was probably my favorite scene in all of the books. Like it made me emotional. I almost cried. I almost cried for the first time ever reading a comic book, because normally it's not that deep. It's just like kicking butt of the local gangsters or something. I don't know. But that scene in particular, it moved me. It touched me. It touched my soul. And it was done in watercolor. And I think that watercolor scene really showed what he was truly capable of. And I think going from, maybe he started off on watercolors and then going from that to digital, those are two very different feeling things. So I think getting adjusted to working with digital art is another reason that Dark Victory just looks so much better than Long Halloween. And in the time between those two publications, I do think he got way better at selecting which details to add and which ones were safe to omit. Like here's an image of like a busy scene in Long Halloween, and then here's an image of a busy scene in Dark Victory. They're both detailed scenes and they got a lot going on, but the scene in Dark Victory is just a lot more clearer, and it just makes more sense with like the details that he decided to draw out, because when you're doing scenes this busy, you don't need all the details of everything, and sometimes it's hard to select, okay, well, what's important and what's not. And I think his discretion on which little details are important, it just improved. And I do think he was able to notice his own growth, because the art itself looks a lot more confident. Like in Long Halloween, I saw a lot of shaky lines that were very thin. Nothing was bold in Long Halloween. It was done, but it wasn't bold. While in Dark Victory, there's a lot of boldness into it. And some of the scenes are just like dark silhouettes where there is no detail. It's just a silhouette. You know what's going on. And that is like a bold take that an artist can do that I just really appreciated to see. And another thing I really appreciated was this tiny lamp. I don't know. I just thought the lamp was so cute. So shout out to that tiny little lamp. And another improvement I want to note is his taste in settings and composition. I think that is also another area that was improved between Long Halloween and Dark Victory. A good example of this is two different scenes that are in the same room but in different books. So this one is Long Halloween and this one is Dark Victory. And you can see the difference. Like, if you're able to see, you can see the difference. And these two images really do sum up the difference between the Long Halloween visuals and the Dark Victory visuals. Because in this Long Halloween scene, the colors are very flat. They're muddy. It's muted. Like, you can tell what's going on. There's nothing wrong, per se, about all this. But I don't find it inspiring at all. It's just, it's flat, it's meh, it's complete. But it's nothing to write home about. While this same room in Dark Victory is executed completely differently. Like, the composition of it, I know the vibe is a little different between like Bruce Wayne and Poison Ivy, where they're sitting across, and Bruce Wayne and Selina, where they're more intimate with each other. But beyond that, the color variations, the brightness around the candles, awesome, beautiful, amazing. The color is also better distributed in this one because there's like the red roses and then little brown spread out in the picture frames and the chairs. So the colors are still muted in this one, but they're just better distributed because like in the other one, it all looked kind of just like a muddy green, almost like if you were at a swamp, which kind of does make sense. I will give him a little props for that because he was in the green because he was with Poison Ivy. If you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. And this is a little bit different, but there are just little differences like that, especially around that candle or like all these candles, like something about that. It elevates the visual experience. And this is something that I just noticed is like the difference between the luminosity of the two. Like, Long Halloween was flat and I don't remember there being any like lights or anything like that. Like, the simple things like the candles, like they make such a big difference, a big enough difference that I noticed it and wanted to yap on the internet about it. And something that I'd also like to commend is also the similarities between the two. Like, you could see that Tim Sale was still true to his style. Like, he didn't change himself as an artist. He still has like thinner lines. He doesn't go too crazy with colors. The colors are still refined and they're not always bright. Sometimes they are bright and vibrant. There is more of that in Dark Victory than Long Halloween, and I do appreciate vibrant colors. For the most part, the colors are still more refined, but they're not blech. They're refined, not muddy. Like, there's a big difference between the two, and I think over those 3 years, Tim Sale was really able to understand the difference between muddy and refined color palettes. And another complaint I had about Long Halloween is that the people were just ugly all around. Like, anyone who wasn't a superhero was just straight up ugly. And in Dark Victory, the people are still plain looking. Like, there's nothing special about them. The artistry is not focused on the everyday man. But they're not ugly anymore. They're simple and plain, but they're not ugly, which I appreciate. And I think the simplicity of Tim Sale's art style, it has a very effective execution. Like, the simple lines, they work. They work. I prefer bold lines most of the time, but when he's doing it, my taste is a little flexible. And I appreciate his natural thin line style. And I just have such a genuine appreciation for all artists ever doing whatever kind of art it is that they feel called to do. And I am so grateful for the experience of being able to look at and analyze Tim Sale's growth over a 3-year period. Unfortunately, Tim Sale has passed now, so he will never be able to receive the flowers that I'm trying to give to him today. But I can still say thank you to all the other artists that are out there still alive and living and creating. So if you're an artist watching this, thank you. Thank you for your service to the world. Keep creating, keep doing great things. And with that being said, that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching as well, and I hope to see you again around. Goodbye. That was an odd exit. Goodbye.